Why did you delete your YouTube channel name, Erwan Heussaff? Like, the pride and joy of everything you do, your name. Why would you just delete it?
I've been creating videos online for about 10 years now, and it's been a wild and crazy ride, but I think it's time for a change, and this is probably one of the scariest things I've ever done. So I didn't delete it, I rebranded it to be less dramatic. It did feel like I was deleting something that I had built over the last few years, and as you know, when you've built those numbers and you have that audience, it does become your pride and joy. But the reason I did it is because for the longest time, what we were doing, and I always say we, if you watch videos I've done since 10 years ago, I never say I. And I remember I shot once in the US and they said, Erwan, you're the only one in the kitchen, why are you saying we? And it was ingrained in me that we were always a team, but it wasn't being reflected where we were publishing our content. And so that was restrictive in terms of the stories we could tell, but it was also restrictive in terms of I had to be in every video, which was never kind of like the point of everything. I started it because we had to build a following, and I'm happy that it got to the point that it got to. But at one point, I felt like I had to mature, and we had to make that switch from content creator to a team of content creators, or some people call it a publishing platform, or as a publisher. We are no longer Erwan Heussaff. We are now going to be called Feature.
So for me, that's like the scariest thing, to take your name away, because I feel like that's why people click on your video, and that's what hooks people. And then once your name's gone, they might not click and watch your videos anymore. Were you afraid of that?
100%. If you see the views back then versus the views now, you do see a dip. I was 100% ready for that, but we wanted to be able to kind of increase our volume. And so I think, especially this year, we're still figuring out what the content looks like and what we can actually shoot because of the restrictions, because of COVID. If COVID wasn't here, we'd be doing everything that we've been wanting to do under Feature. But right now there's still COVID, so it's a little difficult. So it was terrifying to make that change, especially now. But then I told myself, if not now, then when? If we're just going to keep pushing it back, push back the rebranding. You know, that didn't make sense because it's something that I've been wanting to do for such a long time. It's still terrifying today. You just have to kind of be smart about it in terms of how you name the videos so people still know that it's associated to you. But more importantly, the main idea was I hoped that people were following me for the style, for the treatment, for the approach to content, versus just because they wanted to watch me. I never really considered myself a celebrity. Having a channel name under my name was kind of like, oh, it is, everyone's kind of like a celebrity, but I was always more about the message and the value that people were taking away.
So you have all these businesses, right? Don't you think putting your name will increase, like, since you've built your brand and credibility, don't you think attaching your name to all your other businesses might increase the brand's credibility as well? For instance, you have Nos Daily, right? We talked about this. But he has Nos Studios, Nos Academy. He has all these businesses with his name in it.
But his name isn't Nos. That's the thing. His name's Nasir.
Well, people think his name is Nos,
they
right?
do, yes, they do.
That's what gets people to work with him. Like, because for me, I work with Nos Studios all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't even speak with Nos when I work with his company. It just has his name in it because he started it. But they're so good to work with. But why I know that they are legit is because Nos is a crazy businessman, and everything he does is efficient, and he's like kind of psycho in that sense.
Yeah.
And it's the most efficient thing working with his team, which I know you've worked with Nos Studios before, right?
Yeah, we did a couple projects together.
So yeah, what do you think about that? Like putting your name on your other businesses?
I don't think I have a name that is as easily branded as Nas. Nas, like I said, it's not really his name. But maybe it's his name, maybe it's not, but it sounds like a brand. Mm-hmm. Like Erwan Heussaff just sounds so personal, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
If I eventually want to be able to direct documentaries, and if I want to be able to produce for bigger companies, and if I want to be able to talk about different people's stories, then I need a brand that's bigger than my name. Because you don't want to be in front of suits and saying, hey, I have a short movie project to pitch to you. And they'll come back to you and say, but aren't you the guy that just films himself? And that's because it's my name. Unfortunately, we live in the world where clickbait, titles, short copy are everything, and some people don't want to look further into it. So if you see Erwan Heussaff as a YouTube channel, then it means for most people Erwan Heussaff is a vlogger and he's a self-vlogger, but they don't understand what kind of vlogs we do online. If you look at, I think BuzzFeed and Vox are probably the best examples here. These are publishing platforms, right? Or they're considered media organizations. The producers that made their names on Vox or BuzzFeed now have their own channels, but they were known mostly for Vox and BuzzFeed first. And mine is the reverse. Like, I didn't want to be known as just Erwan Heussaff. I wanted to be known for something bigger, and then if ever I want to open a second channel under Erwan Heussaff for personal content, then I will.
If you liked what you saw and you want to listen to the full episode, then download Spotify and follow us at SuperHuman with Will Dasovich. It's completely free, it's linked below and easy to use.